Hi Capricorn. Welcome to your Cancer season reading. Alright, why? Because the full moon was just in your sign and we have a preponderance of planets in Cancer right now. And the last couple of weeks you've just been working. Now we get involved in way too many connections. There's unwanted complications on the horizon. The next 10 days or so can be filled with conflict. What kind of conflict? I think people, first of all, there's been miscommunications with some people where it's just innocent. And in these last 10 days, you're able to easily smooth it over. Now, there are other people who feel that they have to assert some boundary with you. They have to assert some authority somewhere where they feel that they have to, King of Wands. I'm Superman. I am Superman, kind of thing. What do I mean? There are people in your life that would really like to assert their authority right now, and one of the ways that they may go about doing it is by first pretending that you've crossed some boundary or traversed some social, line with them. But it's unwanted just attention, really, is what it comes down to. Complications that then cause conflict because you're not one to take stuff like that lightly. And at the same time, while your existing connections can experience a bit of chaos, you're actually primed in these last 10 days of June to really be on your love game and meet people pretty much left and right. You've got really good chances at meeting someone, but it's someone that you have very good chances at meeting a lot of people. So now, whether you're single or with someone, it becomes for you about durable commitments. You want something, not Page of Cups, not Knight of Cups. You want something that continues to flow. You want something that lasts. You want something serious. So you are able to weed through all the attention that you get, especially in the next 10 days. And out of that mix, there is someone who you could handle a long-term commitment with, someone who is durable enough. You might have to break some prior commitments, especially those of you who are not happy and after a long time are finding yourself and your road to your own joy again. Those of you who are, who relate to that, you may first have to end something that you should have ended a while ago. But my feeling here from the way the cards are lining up, everyone is very mature. Everyone is handling things, no matter how much disdain there has been in the past or resentment. Everyone involved in Capricorn's life right now seems to be operating at quite a high level of maturity. Even when people are trying to exert their will over you by, reaffirming some boundary they have, or what's the word I'm looking for? Reinforcing the boundary that they have. They're still doing it in a manner that, although it's petty, the way that it's carried out, the manner in which they speak to you, the setting in which they speak to you is still quite mature. So everyone is, for the most part, keeping it above the belt, which is really good. When I say that you're looking for durable commitments, the Queen of Cups is different from the Page of Cups, different from the Knight of Cups. What we're talking about is trust. The Page of Cups, mixy, he wants to get it on. Knight of Cups is like, I'll travel to come see you, I'll fly you out. Queen of Cups is like, I trust you, I want to marry you, I want to have kids with you. So that's the last 10 days of June. And I think that the King of Wands, the Queen of Cups, and the King of Pentacles is a very good representation of how these last 10 days go, even just for you personally. You have a lot of authority, a lot of charm, but you're using it to really sweep up. You know, you're mending things, you're sweeping up, you're mending your connections, you're talking to people, even when people are a bit headstrong with you, you're letting it go. Because I think that within the last month you've realized something, which sometimes, you know, Capricorns need a reminder of this, is that although we may not collectively, the rest of us, always live up to your standards, you not only like us, you need us, you love us, and perhaps you love us in spite or, you know, despite how we are and how we can't measure up. But maybe it's occurring to you recently that you love us and need us because we are not like you. And that's maturity. You know, that's just growing up. So yeah, your outlook on how you want to deal with your connections has changed. It's shifted quite some. And I knew that Cancer season would do that. And I knew that Cancer season was the ideal time for your reading because yes, Gemini season is there and it's fast and it's exciting, but Capricorns always just interpret that energy as let's go work. Let me go get another certification. Let me go, you know what I mean? Let me book a conference. The weather is nice. So now let's talk about July when it comes to love, together, single, whatever. And then in the extendeds, we'll talk career and money and all the rest of it. But, okay, before we go to that, one thing about career and money. This last week of June is exactly about what I was just joking about. It's about enriching your knowledge. It's about getting those certifications. It's about taking that training. It's the end of June is you prepping for everything to move into Leo and having such a boost in your economy, whether it starts with a bit of mayhem or not. And if it does start with a bit of mayhem, know that it's happening that way because this is the ride that you are kicking off on. So July for you is a time these next 10 days and then July, all of July, are a time of great forward movement in your career, perhaps the biggest movement that you see all year. Very exciting. Okay, now going back to love, and let's talk about July. So there's a lot of 8th house activation here. Okay, your libido is back on. Why? On the 2nd, we have Mercury moving into Leo. It will be there until the 26th. On the 11th, we have Venus moving into Leo. And on the 22nd, we have the Sun coming into Leo. So you're rediscovering everything, including your sexuality, and you're very free. You feel free. And this can lead you to be free enough in the mind to have relationships outside of what you usually deem appropriate for yourself. You can have in a relationship that's outside the line, something really intense, something that makes you just, head over heels, makes you want to float away. But just remember, no matter how intense it is and no matter how much fun you have, remember to keep that reserve of energy that is you, so you can find your way back when you need to. Okay? Now, Mercury, Venus, and the Sun, because they will be in Leo in July, will go ahead and oppose Pluto in Aquarius. Now, for those of you who have a Cap rising, that is in your 2nd house. Now, what does this mean? This means by the middle of July, it's very easy to have arguments related to money, opportunity, ambition. It's very easy to have arguments surrounding one's commitment to providing for the vision that you have. It's a dangerous time because a lot of really personal things can be said that won't be able to be taken back. It's a time where you may have to, business-wise, collapse the thing and rebuild it, or start a completely new thing on the side that has nothing to do with what you do now, which makes you feel like in a way this thing is no more, but that's not true. Harsh truths, okay? Harsh truths are being told here. But also, when one has money issues in a relationship, I think that it's very much this energy of like finally hearing the truth about how someone really feels about you. I think especially the topic of money is going to bring up exactly what someone thinks of your character. Okay, so we might not be the most comfortable with all these planets opposing Aquarius, opposing Pluto in Aquarius, but we need it, especially because Pluto is in Aquarius. So the truth that you're going to get is true thing. Okay, now, this, if it applies to a divorce specifically, if you are going through a divorce right now, because a lot of Capricorns are, this is about divvying up goods. This is about the legalese that you can get caught up in. This is about being petty when it comes to dividing up money. This is where things get super ugly and you look back, God forbid, in 10 years and go, that was the moment, late June, early July. Do you remember when I had a chance to settle and I didn't, or I had a chance to renegotiate and I didn't? This is the time that if you are nice now, you will look back on this period of your life and go, man, we got lucky this way, boy, and then we slipped through this, and then, you know, in that part of the legal proceeding or that part of the divorce or that part of the contract process, this could have happened, but, you know, we were able to slip through, and that all depends on your demeanor. So we want to keep things very friendly. We want to keep things on that vibe that you guys love, you know, that kind of suave dad joke vibe. Stay there. Stay in that energy. Be as mature and nice simultaneously as you can be. And I really do believe that you will look back at this time in your life and be so grateful for the grace that you showed, because you will have experiences where that grace comes back to you in a palpable way, and you know it's because you were kind in these moments. And why else is it important to be kind right now? Because I think that this is a bit of a exposing season, not just for you, but for the people around you, good and bad. You know, it's a time that can expose the great skill that you possess in many arenas. And it can also be a time where the worst sides of you and others are exposed. But unlike last month, there is so much again, maturity here, comfort. It's Cancer season. It's not, oh, I found out you did something not wrong, now I'm going to beat you for it all season, or I'm going to bring it up every 5 minutes, because truth be told, Geminis can be that way, okay? This is, well, there's no point in beating ourselves up about how we really are, but if we're honest about it, maybe we can find some really honest and very helpful solutions that benefit everyone. So how should we proceed? Now, for those of you who feel like you've sinned or you've lied or you've cheated or you've, you know, this is like the best news that you could ever hear, because it sounds like absolution, and it is. Okay, so you're very lucky. And for those of you who have felt like you have been blamed, you have been doubted, you have been, you know, put through the ringer because someone thought you were doing these things, you're relieved because you finally feel the pressure come off of you and they're not doubting you anymore. And for those of you who have just been trying to recover, just single and trying to recover perhaps from a relationship that you had long ago that ended very badly, especially if it was a marriage and it ended in some kind of legal dispute. For those of you, I feel like love comes back into the picture, like you've waited long enough, and there is a sense amongst you as well for the past few months of like, haven't I suffered enough? Haven't I waited long enough? I know better now. I'm not going to make the same mistakes again. And I think that's the first step here. I think if you can do one thing in Cancer season to really help yourself, It's to reaffirm to yourself, repeat it to yourself every day out loud, many times a day if you have to, that you are safe with yourself now. You are not going to make the same mistakes. You are not going to fall for the same ploys. You will not get played. Your feelings will not get hurt. You will not be taken advantage of. And I think that if you keep reiterating this to yourself, the idea or the prospect of meeting somebody new or leaving something that truly does not serve you at all and is hurting you becomes a possibility. Because it's not about anybody else. It's about you, and it's about how you feel about you, you know? So regardless, unlike last month, regardless of how we get here, the point is now it's time to move forward and heal and get you what you need. What do you need? First, you got to figure out, what do you really want? What does that love that you're looking for, what does it really look like? Who is it really? You know, is it something that you need from another person? Or at the end of all this, do we figure out that this is something that you have been searching desperately for in others because you were looking for it in yourself, or you have been desperate for your own attention and love and haven't gotten it and have kind of turned to others as a sorry consolation prize? It's a funny time, right? Because it's like the screws are being tightened and it feels terrible, but at the same time, there are moments of such clarity and bliss in this process where you genuinely think to yourself, I'm not going to be the same after this. I've understood something here. I've learned something. I know that there are certain things I'll never do again. I know there's certain things I'll never say again. And on the flip side, you've also come to terms with the things that have happened between you and others in the past. So there isn't a sense between you and others of like, I'll never do that again, or like, I'll never treat that person the same way. There's no guilt there anymore. It's more like, we've figured things out. We've settled things. We're in a good place. You're not carrying the blame and the shame and the guilt anymore. That's what I'm saying. Regardless of how we got here, you've put those bags of bricks down, and you're no longer in a space to suffer for anyone or anything else, which last month was reading like extreme selfishness. And this month, as you learn to kind of do this new dance, you are beginning to finesse this, and it's beautiful. And you just needed a little time to figure it out. So your speeds have changed and your motivations have changed. And I think you've softened quite a bit, and it's all very positive. But yeah, it's taken you a little bit to adjust your, shimmy to this. And you have. And it didn't even take that long. But now it's about, one, maintaining those connections, two, continuing to slough off and leave behind the connections that are just parasitic, and they want to hang on to you because you have that superstar energy, and they have nothing to give you but attention. And attention can be a toxic thing to give someone. It's not always a gift. Rarely, actually, is it a gift. So there's also that. But fortunately, along with all this chaos in your love sector, you have a lot going on in your career and money sector, because again, remember, the sun is going to move into Leo in the middle of July, and that's just going to light things up for you in a whole different way. So yeah, we have a lot to talk about in terms of career and money, and then physical and mental health. But for now, I think the most important thing when it comes to your emotional well-being, it's past the point of having to explain or prove or qualify yourself. You don't need to justify where you're at. And anyone who's still asking for that justification from you is doing it on purpose. It's like they're trying to keep you stuck. It's not time anymore for this kind of mea culpa, assigning of blame. It's time to start doing things. It's time to start moving in that new direction, whatever that new direction is, however we got there, whatever people think about it, we're there, that's where we're going. Let's get to it. And no matter how much anyone makes you or wants to make you feel selfish for that, don't. Because in my opinion, you should have done this a while ago. So they can see it as selfishness if they want to, but they only see it that way because you rarely show this kind of care. You know, you can be motivated, you can be ambitious, but rarely do you have this kind of emotional element to it. But this is an emotional time for you. The shifts in your economy are emotional. The changes in your connections with people, very emotional. Yeah. So if you find yourself like crying or creeing, as I like to say, if you're creeing quite some, you know, you just had a full moon in your sign, that's going to happen. But also I would hope that the full moon gave you some insight, not just into, you know, how you are and your behavior, gosh, full moon in the first house, but also like where other people have hurt you. That's why you could be creating quite some, you know, it's hard to accept that people can be bold enough and crass enough to be let into the most, you know, gentle parts of us and be awful. It's hard not to feel awful when you let someone be awful to you. Most of the time, that's why we can't admit that someone's being awful to us, because when we have to make that other connection. And if you're feeling really confused and really scared about it all, even if it's being handed to you on a silver platter, that's okay too. You being ready or not ready for love has nothing to do with how you should approach this. You should just see whatever love, abundance, attention comes your way right now as confirmation that the changes of direction that you're making are good and right for you. You don't have to commit to anything. Don't lose your focus. Don't lose your concentration. Don't go chasing this and that. You don't have to. All these things are just appearing now as reconfirmations that you're finally bravely moving in a direction that truly resonates with your spirit and feels very honest to you. And I think honesty in general, but especially with yourself, new levels. New levels. I love you. Let's look at these cards. The extended is available on Vimeo, on Patreon, through PayPal, and you can get a personal reading below too. It looks like this. Okay. Mwah. Love you. Hi Capricorn, welcome to your extended. Let's do a little preview for the YouTube peeps and the TikTok peeps. Okay, so let's talk about career and money. So when you have everything, by everything now we mean Mercury, Venus, the sun. When we have that in Leo, and it's opposing Pluto in Aquarius, there is a natural irritation here. There are changes here that can throw you into a bit of a state. It can stress you. However, there's two concepts here that are very important to understand when dealing with the stress of these Pluto oppositions. One, you can only conquer mountains that you can see. Okay, if that makes sense to you. You can conquer. You're very good at it. But you can only conquer what you know exists. Okay, and I'll go more into that as we progress. And the other concept that's really important to understand is that there are modes of thinking and solutions that you can come up with that right now you can't, because stress, change, external pressure has never been great enough for you to change the way you fundamentally think. Now that sounds terrifying. As a Capricorn, that's probably one of the most terrifying things that anyone could say to you. And yet, if you know that your success is intertwined with your ability, when it really comes down to it and needs to happen, with your ability to adapt, if you are able to tap into your superpower of like just going for success in a way that you couldn't before, because the right pressure had never been exerted on you. Now in July, especially last 10 days of July, you have the chance to really use your brain. You might even like it. It might be fun. Because the situations that you're put in require you to finally think differently. Let's just put it, well, what do you mean differently? In a way that you could never see yourself thinking or doing things, and yet it works. And you immediately gain a new way. You immediately gain another weapon in your arsenal of how to succeed, conquer, sweet talk, negotiate, get your way, make that money. So what may at first feel like a loss is actually a redirection. The Chariot is the card of our fate, right? Especially this very 10th house, our career. So a redirection at some point could feel like a loss, but really it's only because you've veered off somewhere. Not your fault, no judgment. But this new way of thinking that you have to come to, we're going to go into why it's so necessary. Well, why does this have to happen this way? Let's talk about that next. Everyone who is watching the preview, love you. We're going to keep going here. And yeah, see you in 3.5 weeks.